In the United States, becoming a certified public accountant requires passing one of the most demanding licensing exams in any profession. It demands competence, dedication, and years of preparation. It also requires passing an ethics exam. So what does it mean when the professionals responsible for holding these standards, auditors at one of the world's largest firms, are found to have cheated on the very exam for nearly a decade? And what does it mean when, after being warned by their own employees, firm leaders chose to lie to federal investigators instead of being honest? Tonight, that is exactly the story we are telling. Good evening, I'm Amy, and you're watching Ethics in Focus. Tonight, we are examining Ernst & Young's ethics exam scandal, a case involving widespread misconduct and a serious cover-up. We'll analyze the case using behavioral ethics concepts from Max Bazerman and the AICPI Code of Professional Conduct. Our main focus is the conflict between career pressure and professional integrity. To better understand what happened, let's go to our reporter Nico, who will walk us through the details of the case.
All right, thank you, Amy. So let me walk you guys through the facts. From 2012 to 2021, nearly 9 years, EY professionals were sharing answer keys for ethics exams required for CPA licenses and continuing education. These exams were meant to ensure that auditors understand ethical standards and are qualified to do their work. According to the SEC, employees said they cheated because of difficulty passing these exams and heavy workloads. The case then takes a more serious turn. During the investigation, an EY employee reported the misconduct internally, which is exactly what a professional is supposed to do. However, instead of reporting this to regulators, EY leadership told the SEC that there were no current issues. That statement was false, and they already knew it. The consequences were significant. EY was fined $100 million, required to work with independent consultants, and formally admitted to violating rules on integrity and quality control. The SEC even described the behavior as simply outrageous for professionals trusted by the public. This case has two main ethical failures: what employees did under pressure and what leadership did when they had the chance to stop it. Both need to be understood on their own. So, how do professionals make these kinds of decisions under pressure? Let's take a closer look. To better understand this behavior, we can apply concepts from Max Bazerman's research on behavioral ethics.
I've failed this exam twice already. I have deadlines and my license is at risk. I just need to get through this.
Just use the answers. Everyone does it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I just need a solution.
This is what Max Bazerman describes as ethical fading, a process wherein the ethical dimensions of a situation disappear from view. The employee in the situation no longer sees it as cheating or falsifying a credential. They see it as an efficient solution to a problem.
This is an ethics exam. You are supposed to earn this, not cheat.
I'll just do it this once.
This reflects Bazerman's concept of the want self versus the should self, where short-term pressures override sound ethical reasoning. The want self is associated with System 1 thinking, and the should self is associated with System 2 thinking. At EY, System 2 thinking would have looked something like asking oneself, is what I'm doing violating the AICPA Code of Conduct? And taking long-term consequences into consideration.
There have been employees cheating on exams, and this should be reported. Let's handle this internally. There is no need to escalate this further.
Are there any current issues with exam misconduct?
No, we are not aware of any.
This illustrates motivated blindness, a concept from Max Bazerman, where people ignore unethical behavior because addressing it could have negative consequences. Or in other words, it's in one's best interest to turn a blind eye. In the case of EY leadership had every incentive not to look too carefully at what was happening, because confirming it would have triggered a disclosure obligation that they really wanted to avoid. These behaviors help explain how misconduct can continue, even in organizations expected to uphold high ethical standards. However, regardless of pressure, professional standards clearly define what should have been done. With that in mind, let's return to the studio.
The situations we just saw raise important questions about the professional responsibility. So let's examine what obligations were actually violated. First of all, it is a due care. CPAs are required to maintain their knowledge through an ongoing education. These exams are meant to ensure that professionals stay competent and up to date. When someone cheats on this exam, they receive credit without actually gaining the knowledge. This means they may perform their work without the proper qualifications, which can harm the public. This type of behavior is also considered discreditable. Cheating on ethics exam damages the reputation of the profession. Integrity was also violated in this case. Integrity means doing the right thing even when it's difficult. In this case, leadership chose to hide the problem instead of being honest. Even if they didn't commit the cheating themselves, they still had the responsibility to address it. Failing to act is also an ethical failure. Finally, from an organizational perspective, this reflects a failure in tone at the top. Leadership sets the example for the entire firm. When leaders choose to hide problems instead of addressing them, it sends the message that ethics are not a priority.
These standards clearly show what should have been done. But how can situations like this be prevented in the future? For that, we turn to Sophia, our ethics consultant.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. I am the EY ethics consultant. This case shows just how easily ethical standards can be compromised under pressure, and why it's important to respond the right way. One useful approach is giving voice to values, which focuses on speaking up when facing ethical challenges. In this case, an employee did speak up and respond to the misconduct. That is giving voice to values in practice. However, this only works if the organization is willing to act. In this case, EY did not. Leadership ignored the report, which made the situation worse. Giving voice to values also helps explain how employees justify their actions. Some may have thought, this doesn't hurt anyone, or I'm just dealing with a big workload right now. But in reality, these decisions affect many stakeholders, including investors, clients, and the public, who rely on accurate and trustworthy financial information. Our recommendation is very simple. If professionals are struggling, they should speak up and ask for help. Whether that means more time, support, or guidance, taking shortcuts like cheating can have serious consequences and affect every client they work with. Our recommendation at the organizational level has two parts. First, firms should build training and education into the work schedule instead of treating it as extra work after hours. Second, firms should create a safe environment where employees can report concerns without fear, and where those concerns will be taken seriously. In conclusion, this case tells us two very important stories. The first is about individuals who let career pressure override their professional responsibilities. The second is about leadership. They had the chance to act, but they chose to protect the firm instead. Both point to the same issue, treating integrity as something flexible rather than essential. In the accounting profession, trust is everything. Auditors are not just employees. They are responsible for protecting the public. When that trust is compromised, it affects not just one firm, but the entire financial system. Ultimately, this case reminds us that while career pressure is real, maintaining professional integrity is essential for long-term success and public trust. Thank you, everybody, for watching Ethics in Focus.